it is.
For Jon Gray, before we get too far ahead of ourselves, I guess, with Jon Gray, was it an affirmative choice to not trade him, or was it the market speaking to you that it wasn't a deal that
we internally made the decision to keep Jon and not entertain trading him.
Okay, like about when?
I would say it was a couple of days ago that we made that decision, and hopefully, Jon was drafted and developed by us. I think he's on record saying he'd like to be here, and we'd like to have Jon. So we'll see what happens. That's our objective is to make Jon a Rocky. Continue having Jon as a Rocky.
Cool. To what degree have you talked to him and his people about that so far?
We've had some discussions. We're not at the finish line yet.
Gotcha. And then I guess similar question for Trevor. Was it an affirmative choice then, or again, was it like the market speaking to you?
We said, and I think it was known what we were looking for in terms of, the value that we set on Trevor as far as getting the competitive balance pick. And at the end of the day, what we were offered, we thought the pick was probably going to be better suited for us than having Trevor part of our club for the next 2 months.
Gotcha. And then almost finally, but and then same question for Daniel Bard. Was that ever on the table for Daniel?
We made the decision early that we wanted Daniel part of this going forward. We thought he was very helpful, so we never entertained trading Daniel. You're welcome.
Thomas Harding.
Yeah, Bill. Just first, getting back to Trevor. Did you feel that any of the deals, and obviously a lot of teams kind of came up today, especially the Rays, but did you feel like any deals were close on that?
No, if they were close, we probably would have got to the finish line, and we never did.
Okay. What was the conversation like with Trevor after it was over? I know that, a player goes through a lot of things at this time of year, and, what was the conversation like with him after you?
It was very short. I just said, Trevor, you're still a Rocky. Love you. Look forward to having you in the next 2 months, and we'll move forward. And hopefully we're going to have him longer than 2 months.
Are you saying that you're going to attempt to sign?
We'll see what the future brings. What happens with the off season. We think a lot of Trevor. We like to have Trevor be part of this. The ultimate decisions will be made, but we love Trevor's story.
If you can kind of discuss for people that are not that initiated, just the value that you and the Rockies place on picks, even after the regular first round, what it's done for you in the past, the things that you feel that, that pick can bring you.
Well, the pick brings it all with the way the system's set up. There's a financial component to it. So, depending on where the pick is, it's probably a couple $1 million added to your pool money that you're able to use throughout the draft. So it's just not that player. It might give you a couple other players, but with that pick, that's in the general area. That's really kind of where Trevor was drafted. Nolan was in the vicinity. Ryan McMahon. We've had some success here. We've had some misses, but we've had a lot of success in those areas. And the same point, as you go through it, you really get to know those guys that you're selecting, and we'll make decisions. So, we kind of put that value. I'm not saying that nothing was out there. That the worst case scenario for us, we were going to get a competitive balance pick. So I felt like the talent that we were going to have to accept for Trevor had to be equal to that.
With Jon Gray, I understand, as you said to Nick, that you made the decision a couple of days ago to pursue a contract with him. Even at the 11th hour, did other teams call and try to sway you in another direction?
Yeah, Jon had a lot of interest out there within the industry. Jon had interest. There's clubs, and as you can see today, there was a lot of pitchers moved. There was people reaching out on Jon, but we're hopeful that Jon would like to stay here, which we believe he does, and that we're going to be able to find a common ground to make him a Rocky going forward.
Looking ahead to the future, I know a lot has to happen, but do you feel like this team is going to make, I guess, what we would call a splash in free agency? When I look at your lineup, the offensive group there, do you feel like you guys are in position with what you have now, the complementary players, to go out and get impact bats to go with the pitching that you have?
We realize first and foremost, we are always going to be a scout and development organization. Along the way, though, sometimes you do need to fill spots where you don't have that player available to help your club out. And we'll look at the free agent market. We know we need to get better as a club, and we'll take those steps in the off season.
Thanks, Billy.
You're welcome, Thomas.
Patrick Saunders.
Hey, Bill. I want to run a quote that I got from Trevor today after the deadline, and I only think it's fair that I run it by you to get your reaction. This is what he told me. He said, "I'm confused and I don't have really anything good to say about the situation and how it unfolded." And talking to Trevor and other folks, it's clear that, he was kind of eager to maybe move on to a competing team. So what is your reaction to Trevor's response?
I think it's natural. He probably had built up as his trade deadline and what was being portrayed in the media, but I'd like to think I've kept Trevor abreast of what was going on, what potentially could happen. I told Trevor, in the past, hey, there's a chance you still might be here. So he knew, and I think the disappointment, I understand that, but I think Trevor's is a very good professional. He'll move on and he'll play through it, and we'll go on and we'll address it in the off season.
Okay. If I were to say, Billy, that the chances are very, very slim that Trevor is going to even engage in negotiations to stay in Colorado, is that accurate?
That's hard for me to say what him and his representation is going to do. We will try. We'd like to have Trevor be with us long term. That might not be possible. We'll take it, what the off season brings.
Okay. And regarding Jon Gray, this is my opinion, and I'd like to get your take on this. Given John's how he's been able to succeed at Coors Field, and given his public desire to stay here, do you think it's fair to say that Jon Gray in some ways may be more valuable as a Rocky than he would be as a pitcher somewhere else?
It's hard for me to say. I think Jon Gray's developing and continue to develop, and we've seen growth here, and him being part of a whole group. Some of this pitching, and I've said it. Hey, Jeff Bradish did a good job putting together the starting rotation, and he deserves a lot of credit for that. But as a group, this is good, and we got to get better as a team. But right now, we do have a good pitching, in my opinion, pretty good staff to build on and try to add to the club to make it better and take advantage of it.
And one more for me, just judging by the response I get from fans, and it was a very exciting day around baseball. A lot of big moves. I mean, huge moves. And yet you guys, you really didn't, outside of Givens, make any moves. The fans, a lot of them are very disappointed. What would be your message to the fans?
We're trying to do what we believe is in the best interest of the Colorado Rockies and trying to build a winning club for them.
Okay. Thank you, Billy.
All right, we have time for a few more. We'll go to Danielle from the Gazette. Danielle, go ahead.
Hi, Bill. Just to make sure, to be clear, you guys haven't had any talks with Trevor Story about his future beyond this season yet?
No. I think there might have been, Danielle, before I got here, but I wasn't aware. I wasn't involved in them. But I have not sat down with Trevor and talked about that.
Okay. And then who is kind of the core group you've been working with during this trade deadline?
In terms of front office staff?
Yeah.
There's people here still, Zach Rosenthal, the assistant GM. Other people here are scouts in the field. There's a group. We're not shorthanded.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, a few more. Patrick Lyons from DNVR. Patrick, go ahead.
Hey, Bill, you mentioned about, Gray and Bard kind of being taken off the trade market for the most part. what were the conversations like with some other players that were on expiring contracts, like Jacine, Crone, and even like a guy like Estevez, who's a free agent after the 2022 season?
There was a lot of interest at times or at least people expressed some interest with a lot of players on our roster. When we evaluated all the things that was brought to us, and then ultimately we made decisions we made.
Any teams interested in maybe a larger package? Because we did see, Gibson and Kennedy together from the Rangers, a couple other
Throughout
package
the week,
deals.
without the week, a lot of conceptual ideas get thrown out, but it's conception to reality. Sometimes things get lost along the way.
Thank you.
I will go to Owen Perkins, then finish up with follows from Nick and Thomas. Owen, go ahead.
Hey, Bill. I just want to get maybe your general sense of satisfaction or your feeling about how the club did at the deadline. Were you not able to make moves you wanted to? Did you get accomplished what you wanted to? How did you feel overall on how you guys came out?
Well, I feel good about our process and how we handle things. It's a snapshot in time right now. We're going into the offseason trying to improve the club, but I thought our process was solid.
And were you looking for any pieces, or were you mainly just entertaining offers?
Well, you talk to different clubs and you're looking to add talent to the organization, and that was our focus.
Okay. And when you talk about the reasons for you talked about keeping Bard and Gray, taking them off the table. Is that an indication that you feel like you can compete with a lot of these core players and be closer to success by keeping them than by ulterior moves?
Well, I think that everyone has a special role on the club in different ways, and we feel like those two guys, fill a special role for the club, and I've said it, we've got to get better. There's no doubt, and we look for ways to add talent.
And lastly, with looking ahead for Trevor, in terms of you've said you hope he can stay a Rocky. Do you have a sense of what it's going to take to keep him there? I'm assuming it's more than money. Do you have a sense of what he needs to make that turn?
Not necessarily. I know Trevor wants to play in a winning club and a club that's competing for a championship, as a lot of players do, and and that's our goal. And I think I've painted to Trevor what I think our vision is here going forward, and we'll see what happens and what the offseason brings.
All right, thank you.